So it says in Ben Ishchai, this is going to be on Parashat Ahare Kedoshim. We already did the introduction last week. So now we're just going to go straight to the Halachot. Halachot is of Netilat Yadayim. Halacha Aleph says, Netilat Yadayim dimu ota chazal ta'arat mechatat ul kiddush yadayim raglayim min hakiyor, which means Netilat Yadayim, the Chazal, they compared it to purifying ourselves with the waters of the chatat waters. Okay? Ul kiddush yadayim raglayim, and when the Kohanim used to do the kiddush yadayim raglayim, the washing of their hands and feet, from the kiyor, the shinui mar'eh posel bahem, that any change in appearance is going to disqualify the waters. Also, the waters of Netilat Yadayim, you have to be careful. Even if it changed on its own. For example, for example, water that is in, just in an open utensil for a long time, that it becomes more like greenish, it becomes pasul. Now, even though there's a lot of people that argue, and they hold that that even if it changes on its own, it's going to be kosher. Since Maran is posek that it's pasul, this is the way that we are going to be posek. Mihu. Nevertheless, if he doesn't have any water, he can't bring any other water. He told mehem, wash with this water that was in a long time revealed. And don't make a bracha with Shem Malchut. Just think about it in your mind. Whenever you have water that became disqualified, right? And then afterwards it became qualified again, you could use it. So for example, let's say you came and you put a dye. And after 10 minutes, the dye disappears. It's, one of these things, that's only for a few minutes or whatever it is. You put it in, all of a sudden now it becomes black water. And you're like, wow. But after 10 minutes, boom, it comes back to normal water. Right? It was makat dam and you brought it back to life. Right? And you took away and now it's regular water. Kasher. Bet. Mayim shenafal letocham afar vatit. Yeah, vatit. So it says here, when you have mayim, that all of a sudden you have afar vatit falling inside of it. So you go, whether it's dirt, whether it's clay, whether it's, right? Even though it became darker, uglier, and it changed the appearance. Kesherim. Because Gidul Mayim is going to be a farvatit and it's normal like that. It's not considered shinui. Nevertheless, if it's going to be achurim biyoter, then if a dog cannot drink from it, it's going to be pasul. Halacha gimel, if you did a melacha with them, for example, you use them for washing dishes. It's pasul. But if you went and you started washing kelim, which are clean, right, and things like that, but now if you went and you started soaking your fruits and vegetables or your bread in it, even if you wanted to put it in one utensil and it fell into this utensil, because once you do something with the water which you needed it, they become like shofchim, which you're going to pour them out. They're not then you don't do Netilat Yadayim with mayim shofchim. Which means the second that you use the water for something, come on. And some people say that even if you didn't have kavanah lishor klal, actually not fall apart, it just fell in there on its own. Right? Harelu psulim is pasul. Even as mashma like that, so it's mashma if it fell on its own, it's going to be kosher. Because you didn't make it mishofchim. Nevertheless, you should be suspecting to the machminim. If you have mayim acharim, do not wash your hands from there. If you don't have other water, but do it without Shem Malchut. Yared Shem Malchut b'libo, mishum nikam elan safek berachot leakel sabal. Yeah, safek berachot leakel. Next, Daled. Yeah, en hamelacha poselet ela b'mayim sheuvim. Melacha is only going to be posel by mayim shuvim, which means water which was drawn. When you drew the water forth, now it's going to be pasul b'melacha, whether it's in kelim, which is the right in shebekarka, whether it's going to be in the ground. And afterwards you came and you took them into a utensil. But if you did the melacha in a mikveh or mayan, when it's still mechubar to the mayan or mechubar to the mikveh, lo nifsalu, it does not become pasul. But any type of this difference in appearance is going to be posel. Even if it's going to be mechubar. These words are Netilat Yadayim. Only Netilat Yadayim. That means they're going to take out water there, and I'm going to do Netilat Yadayim from that water. But if I do tevilat yadayim, which means I'm putting my hands into the mikveh or putting my hands into the mayan, rashai, right? In sharim tevilat guf, because if it's going to be kosher for tevilat guf, for example, mayan, that there's no problem with shinui mareh poselbo. Meaning, let's say you have a mayan, a spring. The spring does not become pasul even though it has a different color. So if you could put your body inside of there, so you put your hands inside of there, and there's no problem. Or a mikveh, that is something that does not, for example, hadachat saleh zetim manavim, or shenaflu l'tucham mei tzeva, waters of tzeva, but it's not a real tzeva. As brought on Yuredah Siman Shalif, which is Yilchom Mikvaot, because it was Shvaruch Ben Uzalman, Siman Kusang Sifter. Fine, next. Mayim shikpil mayim anachtom et agluskin. What happens with water that the nachtom, the baker, comes and he puts his gluskin inside of them? Obviously, even though it did not change its appearance, it's pasul. Right? Why? Because he started dipping his breads or all these things inside of there, so it's a problem. But if he put his hands inside and then he put it on the gluskin, or he put it in his palms, and then the waters which are staying in the kli, he didn't do any melacha. Only when they're going to be dirty, and therefore these are kosher for netilat yadayim. But if he comes and he started washing his hands from the batzek, which is stuck to it. So imagine a guy has all this clay or all this dough which is stuck to his hands, and he put his hands inside in order to wash it off. Then it's psulin, even though it didn't change maritan. Okay, some people argue and they say that it's not going to posel, since now if he wants to do netilat yadayim, nevertheless for adishonai ikar uposlin netilat yadayim, it's going to be pasul for netilat yadayim. However, though it says over here, the Halachot Olam, he paskin that it's going to be kosher for netilat yadayim, and he can even make a bracha. Fine. Next. Mayim shelifnei hasapar. Water which is in front of the sapar. In nishtanu marehem psulim im lav ksherim. Ki ma she'hasapar tovel bahem lashot tasarot. So now he's putting his hands in order to get all the hairs off his hands. So he comes, he said that's what he's doing, is domel tovel yado v'tach b'nei agluskin. It's like he's doing tevilat yadayim and then putting it on top of the bread. The mayim nisharim lo nasa bahem melacha, but the water that's left over, there was no melacha done with them. And it's Rabbi Ben Uzalman Sif Zayin. But if you right now come and you put a kli that has yayin or shechar inside of this water, meaning in the olden days, many times it used to happen, right? Let's say I've got water, and then I have a utensil, let's say like a fill, let's say I've got like a flask filled with wine, right? Or shechar, beer. So to keep it cold and to keep it cool, what do? I take that and I put it into the bucket of water. So I've got the bucket of water, and then I've got the utensil with, let's say, with wine or beer, and I put it inside of it, and that's how I'm going to keep it, right? Keep it, again, it's not going to leak in, it's closed, but that's how I do it. So he says, it's pasul. Why? But that's considered melacha. Nevertheless, if they were already cold and then you put it in the mine, just the shmortzi natan, they don't become hot, then it's kasher. And therefore, much to know again, so you come and you put it inside of a utensil on the table, right? In order that it doesn't become hot. So then that's going to be kasher for netilat yadayim. So they used to have like on the table, right? Now we have an ice bucket. It's the same concept, but we actually use ice. Olden days they didn't have the ice. So what would we have? We had, right, of water, right? They used to come and they used to put, let's say, the drink inside. Now the drink was already cold. It was in the martef, so it was fine. But they just put it inside to keep it cool and that it doesn't get hot because it's going to be outside for such a long time. So he's saying that's still kasher for netilat yadayim. Chet. Imagine right now you put a flower in there, whether it's a rose or a dasim, in order it's considered melacha. If it's pasul netilat yadayim, and it's not compared to yaim v'shechar. The al-chashani, but here it's different. Mishum da'adas v'shoshanim shayu ba'avir belo mayim uchrach sheyeh b'hem tzat yoresh. It says they for sure already got a little bit dry. So since it got already a little bit dry, he says, and you're going to put it in water, it's going to become better. So therefore, it's not going to be a problem. If you came and you put a water inside of a utensil in order that it stops the cracks and crevices, or barzel, or it's coming to put off the barzel, right, meaning to turn it off. So you're putting it inside to see basically it's like a measure. So you put the water inside, and then the water continues going up according to then that's how you know the mishkal of the basar. You understood? How would they know the mishkal of basar? The way that they used to do it was they used to have a utensil. In the utensil, you had the marks, right? 100 grams, 200 grams, a kilo, 2 kilo, whatever it is, and then they used to fill it with water. Now, when the water used to come up, according to the volume of the basar, they would be able to know what is the volume of the basar. So that's considered also a melacha, and it's pasul. Yod derech haosin shechar omev radin laniach chavim le'amayim etzel ha'kedera shel ha'esh shebat atmarim ovradim. So he says, right now you're going to make shechar. Now here we're talking about shechar tmarim of dates. So you're making beer of dates or mevradin, water of vradin, of like flour water. So it says over here laniach chavit milea. So now the minhag is at least to put a chavit milea mayim. So he used to put like a bucket or barrel full of water by the kedera, which is on the fire with the tmarim and the vradin. And then they used to put kli nechoshev b'toch hamayim shebel mevim shte kanim asuyim kasher mevim sat echad al kisui kedera. They used to put a little bit, and then they used to bring it in. So he comes and he says, and it's going to come through like they used to do like a system of that the water used to go through the kanim into the kli nechoshev. So he says that water which is in the chavit, which is munach kli nechoshev b'tocham, is considered they did a melacha. If it's going to be pasul for netilat yadayim. Yod aleph imile kelim mayim. If you filled up utensils with water, in order that the kelim should be seveim mayim. So now you're going to put anything inside afterwards, it's not going to do anything. So he says also that's called mayim psulim netilat yadayim. That means you put water in the utensil, the water is going to be absorbed in the utensil. So then afterwards, when you're going to put wine or oil, the utensil is not going to absorb anything. Why is it? Because it was already absorbed in the water. So he says that's also considered melacha. If you put water in a utensil to find out if there's a hole or not, also mayim elu psulim, because you did a melacha with them. You're checking it out to make sure. So that's also going to be the same halacha. Whatever these things are, right? You've got different types of kli or, right? That means basically leather utensils. You put water there, and then you change the water every single day, right? Until it loses its bitterness, right? In the leather. So also the same thing, mayim becomes psulim. So anything which is compared to this, you're going to know the same halachot. You bet. Have a dog drinking from it, or a chatul, a cat, or a chazir drinking from it. Psulin lechatchila. Pasul lechatchila. Why? Mishum demimasim v'nechshalim. It's disgusting. You have a dog drinking from that water, and then you're going to drink from it. No. We're not talking about mayim zomim. We're talking about from a kli. From a kli.
What do you say? Are you going to drink from? I'm not going to drink.
No, but that's what you're right. But the fact that it's disgusting, so it's considered shochin. Shochin means you're going to throw it out, and therefore you're not going to do netilat yadayim with it. But if it was other animals, so imagine it's going to be a goat or no problem. If it's a kelev, chatul, or chazir, that's what's disqualified. No, some people say that even targolim and shavuot, except for bnei yonah. The total lachush is lechatchila. Therefore, you should always cover the water, which you're going to do for netilat yadayim. But if it's going to be in a mayana spring or in a mikveh, why? There's no problem. So he said, yeah. Imagine you brought water into the bet hakiseh in order to wash with them. So it's already discussing. So you can use it for netilat yadayim. And also the dog can't drink from it. Also, it's disgusting. So also you can't use it. And say, but if you have water of the wells, it's not very salty, and the dog still drinks it. Chamet veria, which is very, very the springs of the hot springs of Tiberia, which are bitter. So don't need to let it die. But if you have 40 sia in one place, you could do tevilat yadayim, because then it becomes kosher through tevilah. Now water there is going to be very salty, and it's not ruim lekelev. So if it's going to be pasul, unless you wash them, that's ruim. Now what happens if you're on a boat? You don't have regular water. You can't start boiling them. So he comes and he says, you bring a utensil that has a hole. You're making a connection between the utensil and the yam, and then you're doing it inside. Given the kli nakuf, so since the utensil has a hole in it, so now it's getting it from the maim of the yam. So now when you're doing the netilat yadayim from it, it's like keilu hitbil yadav bayam. It's like you're doing netilat yadayim bayam. But you don't only do this al yadei hadachak, Some people argue and they say that it's not considered a chibur, and therefore if you have to do that, do it without Shem Malchut, but rather be Marer Belibo, Shem Umalchut. That's it. Ma? If right now you did Netilat Yadayim, and all of a sudden you say, you know what, maybe the water that I used was pasul. After the if you have מים אחרים כשרים בוודאי, you should do it Netilat Yadayim again without a beracha. Tedvav. What happens if you already made beracha motzi, and now they told you that the מים was pasul? יאכל פחות מכזית, eat less מכזית, יחזור ויותר ממים כשרים ויגמור סעודתו. מסיח דתו, יפסיק בדיבור, do again the beracha Netilat Yadayim. If לא יפסיק בדיבור וחיצוני ולא יסיח דתו, but if you did not speak and you didn't have a sechad da'at, לא יברך. ט"ז. הלכה ט"ז says, אם נטל חתיכת שלג בידו ושישף ידו בהם. Imagine right now I took snow in my hands and I started like rubbing them. לא עלתה לו נטילת, that's not נטילת ידיים. אבל אם יש שלג 40 זמן, if you have שלג 40 שאה inside of a hole, מותר להטביל ידה בהם, then you can put your hands inside of the hole. וכשרים יודעים טבילה, but again, it's טבילה, not נטילה. יש מטילים אפילו אם אין השלג בתוך הגומה, אלא שטוח פני הארץ, even if it's going to be all over the ground, and it's not inside of a hole, ומכל מקום צריך שיבוא 40 שאה וידחוב ידו בה. Then you put your hands inside of the snow. יש חולקים, and some people argue because they hold that טבילה doesn't help for שלג, and כן לסמוך על טבילת השלג בשעת הדחת. You don't have anything else to do. אם להסק השלג, but if you came and you crushed the ice, and then you made it into water, then you could do נטילת ידיים from them, or מטבילה אם יש לו בהם שאה לכולי העלמא. י"ז, מים שהיד צוללת בהם. If you have hot water, שהיד צוללת בהם, דהיינו קרסו שתינוק נכווה מהם, that means the stomach of a child will get burned from it. אף אגב דמרן מציל ליטול מהם, even though מרן says you could do נטילת ידיים in them, you should be חושש ודמחמינים, ולא יטול שצרינו wait until it gets cold. בשעת הדחק שאפשר לו להמתין, מותר ליטול מהם, then you could do נטילת ידיים, וגם בדום יקבל ברכה ושם מלכות, think about it in your heart. ולכן זה כניש דרכם ליטול חורף חמין. So for you have the elderly people, that how do they wash their hands? With hot water in the summer, so in the winter. So he says they should be careful that the water should be poshrin, that it shouldn't be mamash cham, because if not, then you have a problem. Yudchet. Some people say that it's not kasher netilat yadayim, only water, but not other liquids. That you don't have water, you could use other liquids, but don't make the bracha, but rather think of the bracha in your head. Yutet. Mayim kesherim shenatan l'tocha ma'amayim. Imagine you have mayim kesherim. They put a little bit of mayim psulin inside of it, but tel berov. Even if the psulim mashlim l'shiur revi'it, even if the psulim is going to finish off, then now you have a revi'it of water, still it's going to be okay, and you could do bitun lecha techila. Kaf. כתב בחיי אדם, כתוב בחיי אדם, מצוות בחיי אדם, הנוגע באמצע סעודה בספר תורה ובתפילין רצועות או במגילה ומגילות שכתובים בכתב כתיב. If you went and you touched the ספר תורה, תפילין, רצועות, or the מזוות, or whatever it is, of the תפילין, or the מגילה, מגילות, that's written on a cloth, צריך לטעות ידיו ולא יברך. תדעו נטילת ידיים מותר ברכה. סיפורי כתבנו על פעלים, נשאלתי על זה, זסטנס, כתבתי גם פנים מהירות, ניתור בדבר הזה וכתב דם מספיק, then צריך נטילת, you don't really need נטילת ידיים, and not like חיי אדם ודבריו ברורים. Rabbi says, "Nachon nachmi." Fine. Kaf Aleph, Halacha Kaf Aleph. Mí shenagah be'emtza suda b'shok v'yarech u'mikomat machzim b'dam. If somebody touches in the private parts of their body, or shechei rosho, you start scratching his head, tzarich netilat yadayim, but you don't make the bracha of netilat yadayim. But if you touch zaror rosho v'lo, some you touch your hair, but you didn't actually start scratching, you don't know netilat yadayim. Now, if you touched with one hand, right? You don't have to do only that hand. You don't have to do both hands. Okay? If you only touch with one hand, you only have to do netilat yadayim one hand, not on both hands. Now here Rabbi argues and he says if it's in the middle of the Suda, you should do netilat yadayim in both. But if it's for perot or lishtot or whatever it is, so just do one. So he says if you dash you do the netilat yadayim for the bracha. Kavbet. Hamitznamnem, b'emtza seuda, pachot mi shitin nishmin. Imagine right now I'm dozing off in the middle of the Suda. Yeah, there's a lot of people. נכון. אין צריך נטילת ידיים, but we're talking about באמצע סעודה, לא באמצע שיעור. Right, so he says over here, אין צריך נטילת ידיים. You don't need נטילת ידיים. Yeah, ואם יותר, but if it was more than half an hour, צריך נטילת ידיים, ואפילו ביום. אך אין צריך... Well, yeah. ואפילו אין צריך, he says, אך, but you don't need to make the ברכה נטילת ידיים, even in this בשנה הרבה, even for an hour or 2 hours. That means you'll never make a beracha, even if it was for an hour or 2 hours. Kav Gimel, hamitpalel betoch Suda. If you're praying in the middle of the Suda, some people say you need netilat yadayim, and some people say you don't need. Al ken im yesh lo mayim, if you have water, it's better to do netilat yadayim, right? But don't make a beracha. And if you don't have water, so you could be makir, you could be somech on the mekilin. Kav Daled, kol davar shechotzetz b'tvilah, chotzetz b'netilah. anything which is a chatzitza and tevilah is also a chatzitza and netilat yadayim. For example, tzoah shtachat is important. Underneath the nails, if you have tzoah, if you have excrement or anything else, over the basar when it's going to be extra, or if you have batzek dough under the tziporin, even if it's not neged basar. So never don't have long nails. Anyway, gidul tzibonayim is kashe umal lenefesh adam. It's not good. Korim tikborav yinika lechitzonim. You bring the chitzonim onto you. Kashe b'memkom acher b'tzeit hashemay. Va'avel tov 30 yom ya'amon l'mishmar l'nakotam b'chol yom. So he says the avel within the 30 days, right? He says ya'amon l'mishmar l'nakotam b'chol yom. You should try to clean them all the time. Okay, so he says over here, aval b'Shabbat, right? But on Shabbat, right? You're not allowed to do that because it's mimachek. So he says just wash them. If you have a plaster, a bandage, so you can't take it off before the Netilat because of the makah. I already brought down in Parashat Shmini that you don't have to take it off, right? You don't have to put it where the bandage is. It's important. What happens if the nail got cut a little bit? So then he says over here, Kavhei, Hadio ve'atzeva. When we're talking about now dio ve'tzeva, if it's going to be moist, it's not a chatzitza. But it's going to be dissolved in water. If it's going to be dry, it's a chatzitza if it has mamashut. But if it's only just the appearance of tzeva, for example, the henna is not a tzeva; it's appearance of henna. It's appearance of tzeva. It's not a chatzitza. What happens if a person's a painter? That his hands are always dirty. Aval Adam Shem Emunato Bekach Im Yesh Mamashut Dio Al Yadav. It's a chatzitza. Tzrik Odam Natzim Libol Davar Zeh Shumatzu Yushkia Bnei Adam their hands get dirty and you don't even realize about it. There was a shochet v'katzav and all these things. Also, it's going to be the same halacha. Kavav, last halacha. Tabat sheish ba even tova. If you've got mamash a good ring, if you go on for example, Shukurin Almaz or Zamrug or Yaku or Yakod or Piroza. Yalom, even tova begavan tchelet, tova begavan adom, min even tova, different types of rings. Tzarich la'asir, you have to take them off during the time in Netilat Yadayim, and it doesn't help just moving them around. And even if it's going to be refuya, which means you can move them around, take them off completely, because we're not making what is considered refuya or not refuya, but the avad, it's going to be a good netilah, even if as long as it's refuya and you left them there. But if it's going to be very tight, it's not a good Netilat Yadayim. Yeah, that's what we're saying here. And by even tova, what happens now if there's no ring, meaning that it's a ring but there's no stone? So he says over here. So he says ba'anashim then darkam lalush yesh yispocham matim lo. So by men you can leave it on because men don't need. So usually they leave them on all the time. It's not a chatzitza. Aval ba'anashim, but by women, they usually take it off. So then you have to take it off. And by men, even the one that take it off, it's tavola bracha. You should take it off. That's what you should be doing. Have a wonderful day.